So, my name's Kevin and I like maps. And it sounds like there's a few folks who fall into that category here. Joe had suggested the topic of navigation, and of course navigation's a really big thing, and we're not going to come close to touching everything there is to know about navigation today. I've seen one article that described navigation as answering 3 questions. Where am I? How do I get where I want to go? And when will I get there? And I'm not going to worry much at all about the second 2 parts of that. I'm just going to focus on the first one, where am I? If you want more, it's too late to go to Dawn's class in February or later in the month. But get on the forum and ask her and say, hey, do it again. Let people know you're interested. And we'll go. Something will happen. So, that very little contrast there, that's disappointing.
Yeah.
That helps. Okay, thank you. All right, so this topic came about 1 or 2 New Years ago when Great Outdoor Provision advertised a Get Hiking event on New Year's Day. Come out and hike someplace you haven't hiked before. And I went to the New Hope Overlook area at Lake Jordan and met up with about 30, 35 folks and a couple of park rangers. And we went hiking out there. And I had never been out there before. It really is a pretty cool place to hike if you've not been there. But it's on this spit of land out into the lake. Pretty good up and down out there, so it's a more interesting hike than you might think being beside the lake. But the thing that really excited me was before I went and got a map, and I picked up a map of the route, and I went out there with this map in my hand. And I realized that with this map, I could go from the parking lot up here, follow the blue line, up and around, and what I realized was within about 100 yards or so of every place I was on that trail, I knew where I was. This map was low enough or high enough resolution, high enough scale, that I could follow myself as I went past each cove. I could follow myself on the contours as I went up a hill and down the next one. As I come across the gullies, I could follow that on the map. As I turned to the north, I could see the sun behind me and my shadow in front of me. As I turned back to the south, the sun was in front, the shadow was behind me. So that was really cool and encouraging to me, that everywhere I was out there, I knew where I was. And that just kind of got me excited about the maps. So that's kind of what I'm going to talk about today. That's what I'm going to start with. And then I'm going to go into I got a quiz that I found on a blog that I worked through. But that was really what got me started with this topic, was I could realize that if I paid attention to the maps and paid attention to where I was and looked out some details, I could know at pretty much any time where I was. So for this part of the presentation, I'm going to take us through a trip at Lake Jordan. This over here, this region here is the same New Hope Overlook we were talking about. And as we go off to the left and up to the north, where I said start, that's the Haw River side of things. Right? And the place I've marked as the start is the canoe launch up on the Haw River. Right? And the end is the New Hope Overlook area where there are campsites down beside the water. So we could do this as this could be done as a intro to camping, to kayak camping kind of event. Okay, so this is something I did with Google Earth. Right? I grabbed a picture off of Google Earth. The lack of contrast kind of makes it a little hard to see, but I fired up Google Earth's ruler tool and drew out a route and said, okay, how far is this thing? 6.5 miles. That was a really quick and easy way to get an idea of the distance involved, right? Which is really good for initial route planning. Because the problem I have with a lot of the online map sources is you lose all sense of the scale. I can look at a picture and I got no idea whether I'm looking at 1/2 mile or 6 miles. And so Google Earth does a good job of that with the ruler tool. So a couple of navigational terms and concepts, some of the simple ones. First one, handrail or a guide rail. Right? It's just like when you're walking down the steps, you got the handrail, you put your hand along it, and you're going to follow that handrail until you get to the bottom of the steps. Navigationally, that's the same thing. A feature where you can follow that feature, like a riverbank, can be considered a handrail navigational feature. As long as I'm following that right riverbank, I know I'm on the right path. Right? And I'll look at my maps and I'll look at my pictures ahead of time and learn how far I can follow that. Waypoint is kind of a navigation-y term. It just means any spot that you plan to either be or avoid. Right? So you see that term waypoint, that's nothing scary, that's just a place. Okay? Typically a place that you plan to go through, to go to or through. Now here, how many of you guys are comfortable reading, how many people are not comfortable reading topographic maps? Okay. For land-based, for rivers and lakes, a lot of times your topographic maps are going to have better information for you than any kind of lake chart or something of that nature. If you look after the meeting or if you came up ahead of time, the fishing map over there, all the land is just plain yellow. And so your only landmarks on that map are the shape of the water. But with the topographic map, you get a really good picture of the land around it. And the big magic on the topographic map are these brown lines. Right? These are called contour lines, and they represent the up and down gradient of the land. And the simple thing to remember about the contour lines is where they're broad and spread apart, it's relatively flat, and where they're stacked up tight, it's relatively steep. So if we're paddling down southward down the Hall River here, we can see up there that riverbank is fairly steep, right? Because those brown lines are clustered together. And as we go down farther south, we'll see that one gets a little steeper, come down a little bit more, and that one's even steeper and taller, right? Because it's a broader spat, but the contour lines are still stacked up. So now, as far as staying found goes, as I'm paddling southward down the Hall River, I can keep an eye on that, and I can say, well, gee, here's a pretty steep riverbank on my right, and I'll paddle a little bit farther, and I say, well, this one's a little steeper than the last one, and I'll go a little farther and say, well, this one's even steeper yet. Right? And so by watching those, and by having paid attention to my map ahead of time, I can have a really good idea of how far down that lake I am. Now, the other thing we can notice is where's the water and where's the land. And so here's a small cove up here, a bigger one down here. I can notice those as I go by and use them as my situational awareness, keep an eye on where I am. And if I'll notice, over here on the other side, opposite this one, there's another cove on the other side. And so that'll again help me to keep an eye on where am I. Hey, if there's this cove on the right, there's not one on the left yet, then this isn't where I am. There's also this hilltop at the top of this bluff, right? That may or may, with all the trees around, that may or may not be a good landmark. You may or may not be able to see it. I'm thinking, just from looking at the map, that you'd probably be able to see, as you look up, you'd probably be able to see the light behind the trees on a hill that size. So if I were paddling that, that's one of the things I'd be watching for, knowing that I may or may not be able to tell it, make it out against the tree line. But if I can make it out, then I know where I am. Now, the next navigational feature is a fence. And just like a fence in real life, that's something that you can recognize that you don't want to cross, like the dam. On this route, if I get to the dam, I've gone too far, right? Yeah. But I can also use this wide open space, right? As I watch myself go past those three bluffs, the steep, steeper, steepest, and I keep going, and then all of a sudden the whole lake opens up wide in front of me, I can say, okay, now I've made it to that spot, and it's time for me to turn left and head back up toward the campsite. So sometimes the feature I'm looking for is lack of feature, right? Or when things open up. Now, a catch is, in a sense, a pair of handrails. Right? It's features that guide you to a particular destination. A lot of times they may narrow, and so you'll know as long as I stay between these 2 points, I'm on, or between these 2 features, I'm on course. That kind of reminds me of when I was learning to drive. I grew up around here, and I remember being kind of like a light bulb moment when I realized over there by NC State campus, I had the downtown area, I had Hillsborough Street, I had Wade Avenue, and I had the Beltline boxing me in. And so I could drive anywhere in there in that Cameron Village area, and until I got to one of those streets that I recognized, I couldn't get but so lost. And you can get in there because those roads don't connect in there. But I knew that somewhere, if I keep going long enough, I'm going to come out on the Wade Avenue, or I'm going to come out on Hillsborough Street, or I'm going to see the Beltline at least. I can't get past it without recognizing it. So that gave me a lot of confidence to know that I had to be within these boundaries, so I can't be too far off course. And so when you're planning a route, when you're looking at your map, you can look at those same kind of things. So no, I don't want to get past these various boundaries. And now we've got another fence there as the lake opens up onto the main bridge. Once the lake opens up, I need to be looking for the campsite on the right. I don't want to get out into the main water on this particular outing. Some sources. One of the things that I've gotten to is gathering as many different maps as I can and putting stuff together. A lot of times I'm finding no one map does what I need it to. Google Earth is a great place to start, like I mentioned earlier. You can get USGS quads online. MyTopo is a great place. If you're at the coast, the NOAA charts are there. I'll spend a little more time on each of these. And of course you got commercial maps and you got park maps and brochures. Google Earth is fun and easy to navigate, real easy to find what you're looking for. It's got a good point of interest database, so if you know the name of a place but you don't know where it is, a lot of times you can search and find it that way. The overhead photos are good and bad. From the opening shot of this slide deck, sometimes the contrast is kind of lacking and it's hard to see. In those pictures of Lake Jordan, you had the green trees and the greenish water. Sometimes it's kind of hard to see what you're looking at. The user-contributed photos can be a really big help. If someone has posted a picture of the put-in side or the takeout or a particular landmark along the way as seen from the water, then you've got that water view, that view from the land side of what that spot is going to look like. Sometimes that's a really, really big help. I mentioned the ruler tool, great for measuring distances. It's just a matter of marking a series of points. You turn on the ruler tool, mark the path, and he'll tell you as you go how far it is. The overlays also have allowed people to post sets of landmarks, sets of waypoints at various places. You guys remember when Paul Ferguson was over at JC Park a few months ago now? He's got, the publisher of the book, Pocosin Press, has Google Map KML overlays to go along with his book, at least the North Carolina book. So you can go on Google Earth and download his overlay to go with it, and all the launch sites and all the takeouts that he refers to in the book are markers on Google Earth. So that's a great planning tool to use there to let you correlate that. Should have brought my book. That would have been a good practical one. Oh well. So anyway, a lot of strong points of Google Earth. One of the things I don't particularly care for is I have a tendency to lose scope of distance. I don't, without seeing legend on there, and sometimes even when the legend is there, I don't quite know how it's measured on the map. And so a lot of times when I've got a map I can zoom in and out, it's hard for me to get an idea of distances on that. U.S. Geologic Survey. These are the good old-fashioned, the traditional topographic maps published by the U.S. government. Right? These are all online now. They call them GeoPDF formats. It's a supplement to the portable document format specification. So it's got a lot of good detail in there. The files are pretty big though, so it'll take a little while to download them. You could take the whole thing and print it in a large format if you've got a large format printer, or you can send it to Kinko's. I haven't called them to see how much it costs to print a full-size one. Or they've got vendors available. You can click through on their website and you can say, order me one of these. Or you can select a region on the map. You can just drag your mouse over it and pick the area that you want to print. If you go to usgs.gov, you click on the map locator and downloader, it'll take you to that spot. The thing with printing from the USGS quads at home is that best I can tell, I haven't found a way to make sure I get the legend included with it. Right? So when I drag and mark a region and I say print the selected region is all I got. And so if the scale to show me the distances involved is not within that region, it's not on there. This one was interesting. There are 3 largish islands on the lake. Which one would be the best one to camp if we had to spend the night?
They all have marshes.
Yeah. And none of them have contour lines on them.
Yeah.
The one with the hotel.
The one with less critters.
The best answer I came up with was the big one in the middle, just because there was more space and less of the marsh icons. But that was the trick question, right? None of them really is a particularly hospitable, a particularly attractive site. They're all marshy. And like you said, no contour. They won't get you up very high off the water. There's no cover listed, right? So if a storm came up, you'd have nothing to protect you from the fetch over the water. Now, suppose that you left your car at a put-in on the eastern end of the lake, and you paddled west, heading around the islands. As the day wore on, your bow paddler in your canoe started to feel unwell. To make matters worse, the easterly breeze has picked up, a lot of chop in the water now. Your partner doesn't want to continue. So,
Leave him on the large island.
Gilligan will get him in a few years. So where's the best place on the west side of the lake to take out?
Right by that road, give somebody $20 to drive me back.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's the farthest.
Yeah, right in there.
See, right over there, we've got the trail that leads up to the road. On this map, we can't see whether the road connects to this one.
It does eventually.
Somewhere, yeah. That's one of the things they taught me in Alaska, though. Is sometimes the roads, there's places where they're 50 miles away by boat and 300 miles away by land.
Yeah.
Right? Which is pretty incredible. All right. Let's see. Just check one more question. All right. So either way, that's going to be a long walk.
Over west of that road, there's another white spot with a marsh mentioned. Why is that white around it?
The white indicates that there's not much tree or brush cover. Right? And the green here says this is marshy, but there's trees. And this area is marshy with no trees.
Thank you.
And so we can see right there's a stream bed, there's some marsh and bog over here as well. So it looks like everything following this stream bed is going to have a tendency to be pretty soggy. But if we can follow the road through there and up here, looks like things are tending to be a little more dry once you get past that. And this stream over here doesn't seem to bog down the whole neighborhood like this one here does.
It's got lots of contour lines.
Yeah, it's got more contour lines, it's a little steeper, so it's got better runoff. So there's a lot of fun things you can see from these maps. All right. What does the brown stipple scattered along the riverbanks mean? Along here.
No, shift.
Sandbox.
Shifting back.
Yeah, shit. Those are mosquitoes.
Those are the boots left behind by the previous paddlers.
Yeah. Those are the sandbars. Right? So you've got sandy banks along there. Let's see. What else do we know about the river? Which direction does it flow?
I think it moves around a lot.
Yeah.
It sort of goes northeast in general.
Yep. From the southwest to the northeast, you've got a contour line crossing down here. Dam blocking the way up there. But yeah, it is and there's very few contour lines on this whole map, and so it's not going very fast, right? And you can tell the lazy waving in and out, I think is kind of typical of the slow moving river, with the sandbars beside it, right? If it was moving very fast, it would tend to carry the sand away.
It's curious to have so much white there.
How did you determine the direction of flow?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think that's northeast to southwest, because if you look at the sandbars, you can see where the river's running. It seems to me like the offshoots. Because you look at the tributaries.
Stream here.
Yeah. So it's come down into it.
So it kind of circles around.
Yeah.
All that white is
the old working actor.
It's flat water.
Yeah, it is very much flat water, very definitely. The author said she was looking at the contour lines over here and saw just a little bit of the upstream. No, upstream this way. Flows from the southwest to the northeast. But you're right, they do look very flat. The two places they cross are very flat, but they are spread out so much that it is very much a slow-moving, very lazy river. By the way, it says, close inspection of the contour lines to the east and north of Silver Star. East and north. Revealed that two contour lines cross, but unless you're mapping Escher's waterfall, this should never happen. It implies that a single point has two different elevations. I attribute the crossed lines to careless draftsmanship and the confusion created by introducing supplementary contours at closer intervals to the valley. In this case, the contour interval is labeled to be 40 feet, with supplementary 20-foot contours in area of low relief.
What's the guide perpendicular to the perpendicular red lines there? Is that just the longitude, latitude?
I would tend to think so, but I haven't seen them labeled as guide before.
But like 4616 would be an elevation point.
Right?
So yeah.
A surveyed elevation point. But I usually don't see large crosshairs leading to the elevation points.
That just so happens, I'm sure. That's probably latitude, longitude, quadrant in that area.
Maybe.
That's 4618 on the left, and the top, bottom right under 5 is 4500.
Well, yeah. Yeah, so from the 45 it goes up. And this is the survey points are various points throughout the landscape where they take reference measurements. Right. I think, is there going to be a brass marker in the rock there? A lot of times I think there is.
Yeah, I think that they're circled when it's a when it's a reference. I can't think of the word, but the guarantee one, the one that they go up and actually check on.
Right.
I think they circle those, don't they? Circle the
Survey points. Survey
Yeah, thanks
points.
to survey point.
Yeah, I'm used to seeing a little brass marker driven into the
Right.
rock or into the ground
It's a
at that
survey
particular
marker.
spot.
With whoever did it.
Yep. All right. All right. Can we find OK Slit Brook and the unnamed stream that drains Carter Pond? Which stream is steeper? The unnamed stream or OK Slit Brook?
Okay, Slip Brook is outflow.
Yep. Yep, OK Strip is the steeper of the two, roughly 20% longer than the Carter Pond outlet. X marks the spot where the Slip Brook enters the Hudson River. There's another X with the letters Bravo Mike.
Benchmark.
What do, okay. Yeah, what do these symbols signify?
Benchmark.
We just talked about the X is a survey point and the BM is the benchmark. The upstream benchmark has a surveyed altitude of 1,292, whereas at 1,252 the other control point is 40 feet lower. But now you can measure or you can assess the gradient of the river through there. And that takes us to the bottom of the survey. So,
Fun.
I thought it was. I got to admit, I've been really, really pleased with this blogger. In the same boat on paddling.net. It's a husband and wife team. They do a lot of canoeing up in the Adirondacks. They write a lot about outdoors in general and a very lot of photography, drawing, painting, outdoor gear. They publish every Tuesday, post a new one, and she's planning about a 200-mile journey across 2 river watersheds this summer. So that's taking place. Right, she's including her readers in the planning process for that. But these folks are really good writers. They spell well and they use good grammar. and it's well written literature, right? They do a good job with the writing in addition to making it fun to read. Anyhow, Craig, if you grab the lights for us again, please. That's what I've got. Hope I didn't put anybody to sleep.
Kevin, she
Sure.
did a series, and I think if you go on there, you can go back and look. She did a whole series on maps,
Mm-hmm.
just on all about how to use them.
Yep. Let's see here. Where is
Quite a
the
number of them.
So this section,
Okay.
this page is kind of their index, right? So they've gathered all the articles together by topic, and so typically, this Breaking Away series may have been done in 2002, and Planning a Big Trip could have been done in 2010, right? So that these are grouped topically. They've been doing this since the late 1990s. So they got several hundred articles out here. It really is a lot of fun. They've also got a novel that they published chapter by chapter.
That's all
all their blogs?
Yes,
Wow.
rather prolific.
She cooks a lot.
Yep, a lot of cooking. Here it
Does
is.
she cook out on these trips?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what it's
Yeah,
about.
they do their
Hush.
yes.
breakfast cooking.
There's a top, one of the categories of the top says, it's alimentary, my dear. And that's all about food. Right, she's big into bannock breads. She's got a lot of, a pan bread.
Stone soup.
There was a cooking thing recently, but this is a fun story. Yeah, 33 chapter novel that they published 1 week at a time.
Where were they?
In the novel,
Yeah.
you're paddling up in the Canadian northern
New York.
New York and Canada.
Oh, okay.
Northern New York and Canada.
So they're not in the Three Sisters swamp.
Chapter
15.
No.
No,
Okay.
I don't remember what that chapter
Camille will go get them for plagiarizing the name.
Of course, well, it was from them that I got the term "staying found" because one of their articles on non-electronic navigation, they put that. But it's a lot. I look forward to their article every week.
What's her husband's name? Farwell or
Forrest Farwell, former Marine.
She calls it.
Farwell Forrest. Farwell is his first name. Forrest is his last name. Yep.
That would be easy to fix that.
Yeah. Come on, where is it? There it is.
The man cooking way, that one looked interesting.
So they've archived everything since they started this blog?
Best I can tell, yeah. Yeah, I can spend quite a while just flipping through it, and they're all, when they reference another one of their articles that's hyperlinked, a lot of times they got links over to Wikipedia to explain some of their references. It really is pretty cool. So, anyhow, right? So here, some of the bannock recipes there. They've got a handful of articles. Every now and then they'll post one, our readers write, where they're taking in reader comments. They'll build a blog article out of reader input, which is kind of neat.
you won't have any time to kayak and read all this stuff.
Yeah, you really could. Anyway.
Thank you.